So I remember that when we first met, it was in 1990, and I remember this because I had graduated from the conservatory in 89, and I was not working with a voice teacher during the interim period, and I hit a very rough stretch vocally, where my voice was growing quickly and I didn't have the capacity to respond technically. And then we started working together at, was it Sherman Clay?
Yes.
At the piano shop?
Yes.
And I remember thinking, okay, well, maybe there's something I can still do here. And you shared with me your story that you had had a similar experience as a young professional.
Right.
Where you had hit this point where you felt like you couldn't sing at all and you had to stop and take everything apart and teach yourself how to sing again. I struggled with health issues for many years where even though in some ways I could only tread water, you were able to work with where I was at that point. That you didn't compromise the way you taught me, but your expectation was very specific to where I was at that point.
One of the things I love about my own work is how to keep a professional singer healthy, how to keep them really singing well, even when they're not completely well, because no one is always completely well.
That's for sure.
And I think this training meets you where you are. This is a very simple principle, but its application just is universal.
We spent a lot of time talking about, and still spend a lot of time talking about, breathing.
Right.
Since I, until my young adulthood, struggled with asthma, and so I always had this feeling like I couldn't get enough air, and that it was tense all through my midsection, and I had a hard time with the long lines. And you said that that's how you learned how to teach breath, having to deal with me. One of my favorite Jainisms has always been that technique is everything you have to do to survive after taking the wrong breath, which is so insightful and so true and so brilliant that I want it on a bumper sticker so everyone knows it. That issue of how to bring in air without trying to get air, and of how to be actively involved with the exhale as well as the inhale, defined everything that I would be able to do later. You took my greatest weakness and transformed it into one of my greater strengths.
Our strengths can try to take over, and if we keep working on our so-called weaknesses, then everything will start to bloom.
One of the things that was very challenging in the direction that my career took, singing and premiering and touring so much contemporary music, so many new compositions where there was really no roadmap, it hadn't been performed or recorded before, and that aside from certain structural challenges, that we worked with a lot of intervallic leaps and trying to negotiate lines and tonality that you don't usually have that experience with early in your singing life. We can sing Mozart repeatedly, Verdi repeatedly, Puccini repeatedly, Strauss repeatedly, and we get a handle on what the challenges are vocally for each of those styles and voices of those composers. And then I started working with so many who I had no experience with, which was introducing yet another whole style of singing really into my experience that, David Garner has very, very different demands than Gordon Getty, who has different demands than Jake Heggie, who has different demands than John Corigliano or Luna Pearl Wolf.
I think I learned a lot by having to teach that kind of music. I learned a lot about how grounded you have to be in your breath and on a vowel before a big leap. And it taught me a lot. It was very stimulating for me. I mean, I love the work we do because it challenges me to find new ways to say this principle. Well, one of the things I appreciate about this work with people is it feels different on different pieces, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But it is the same function, and that gives you a sense of stability and security when you're performing.